Hi and welcome to this short presentation on Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. I made this video to summarize the 4 principles of WCAG 2.2 and how you could apply these in your roles as instructional designers or as digital learning developers. So here are the learning objectives for this microlearning video. I hope by the end of the presentation you'll be able to explain the purpose of WCAG, identify its 4 key principles, and finally, probably the most importantly, apply at least 3 practical guidelines to improve the accessibility of your web content or e-learning content. So why is accessibility important for instructional designers and digital learning developers? Well, from an ethical perspective, we're looking to design inclusive learning experiences that do not exclude learners who may be neurodiverse or have physical disabilities. If we do not design content with these people in mind, we could unintentionally be preventing them from being able to access the material. From a legal perspective, you want to create compliant e-learning material that adheres to the UK Equality Act 2010 and other legislation. So there are other parts of UK law that are maybe not directly related to accessibility, but you need to be compliant with those bits of legislation too, like, for example, the Data Protection Act. And finally, accessible learning experiences, in my opinion, create a better user experience for all learners, even if they do not have a diagnosed learning need or disability. So I think if you're presenting content which can be understood in a variety of ways, that actually means people that accessing the content are likely to engage with it more, and more learning transfer is likely to take place. So what is WCAG? What are the WCAG guidelines, and what is WCAG 2.2? So the WCAG guidelines are recognized standards designed to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. And there are 4 guiding principles. Content should be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And one way to remember the principles is to use the acronym POUR. So let's begin with perceivable. So what does it mean? If the content is perceivable, it means that users can perceive or see the content through their senses, primarily sight, hearing, and touch. So this is something to consider for users who may be blind, deaf people, or people with visual impairments such as color blindness. Good practice for perceivable content includes using closed captions or subtitles, alternative text for images, screen readers for blind and visually impaired people, and finally being aware of contrast ratios. So you'll be expected for normal text to have a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. For larger text, this could be 3 to 1. So being aware of these things and building these into your e-learning content will help you to make the content perceivable for your users. The second principle is that content should be operable. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that users must be able to navigate and interact with a website or e-learning content in this instance using various methods, including assistive technologies. So you need to think about users who may have motor disabilities, visual impairments, or cognitive difficulties, and how they can operate the content that you're presenting them. So good practice for this principle includes making content pausable, stoppable, or hideable, as automatically moving or scrolling or updating content can be distracting and difficult for users to interact with. Your content should support input device alternatives, as some users may operate websites with speech recognition, joysticks, or other assistive technologies. Your content should enable keyboard navigation, as many users with motor disabilities or visual impairments rely on keyboards or alternative input devices instead of a mouse. So they should be able to tab their way through content, use the space bar, and not be reliant on a mouse to advance the content. And finally, to make content operable, you should design interactive elements that are easy to use. So don't use small buttons or poorly designed buttons, and avoid requiring complex gestures or precise movements such as drag and drop, as some users may find this difficult. Let's move on to the third principle now, and that's that content should be understandable. But what does that mean? That means that users of all abilities can easily comprehend and interact with the content, making for a smoother and more inclusive learning experience. So, users to bear in mind for this principle might be users with cognitive abilities, so people who are neurodiverse, non-native speakers, so people who have English as an additional language, and users who may have literacy issues. Good practice for this principle includes having consistent navigation. So this helps users find what they need. The content should be structured in a predictable way, as sudden changes can confuse some users. And finally, it's recommended to use plain and clear language and to avoid jargon, as this may confuse users, especially if their first language isn't English or if they have literacy issues. The final principle I want to talk about is that content should be robust. What does that mean? Well, that means that it should be reliable and compatible with a wide range of user agents. We'll come on to what those are in a moment, including current and future assistive technologies. So there might be users out there using older tech. They might be accessing your content through a variety of devices, and they might be using assistive technologies to interact with the content. So good practice here would be to use proper HTML syntax, as assistive technologies rely on well-structured code to interpret content accurately. Again, ensure compatibility with assistive technologies, such as magnifiers or screen readers, as users rely on these to navigate through their websites. Also, voice recognition as well. Provide text alternatives for dynamic content, as users with assistive technologies need clear, accessible alternatives for content that updates dynamically. And finally, make sure you test the responsiveness of your e-learning content across devices, as users may access content on a variety of devices, including desktops, tablets, and smartphones. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope I was able to explain what WCAG is, what the 4 principles are, and how you can apply these principles to the design and development of your e-learning material. Thanks. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found it all useful. Okay, bye.